What's up, people? I'm doing an interview today with Adam Valen.
Hey,
Adam, how's your week been?
hey, hey guys, I'm Adam. I'm the treasurer of the Renaissance Fair. I'm here to talk to you, or talk about some uh, college stuff. Yeah,
Adam knows his stuff, guys. How's your week been, Adam?
pretty good, pretty good. I, I was like working through a lot of like past life trauma this weekend specifically, where I was just trying to like figure out the things that make me tick and try to like improve them so that they work better for me, like heal my soul pretty much.
Yeah, you were saying like you do a lot of meditation, yeah?
Yeah, I spent a lot of time doing that today, like in the sunlight specifically. it it was really nice.
I never thought about that. Like every time I meditate, I always meditate like in my room. I never like do it outside even. I never do it outside.
Yeah,
I should do it more.
the sun is similar to sound baths. The sun sort of does a similar sort of thing through um, its own like e- energy. It like fluctuates. Uh,
Well, just even being outside is good, bro. Like
yeah,
getting the fresh air, getting like just being out in nature, getting all those like circadian stuff. I guess
yeah.
it's good.
Nature's wonderful in its various ways to like that it can heal us for every ailment that our bodies and minds can experience. Nature has a solution to them through like the various herbs and such that are available in the wild.
It sucks, man. I never have like a good time to do it because like I always like think to meditate right when I wake up or right when I go to bed.
Uh,
So I'm like in my room, just sitting on the carpet. But being outside would be so much better, bro. It'd be like
Dude, yeah,
I'm sure it would change this a lot about.
nature guides our minds when we meditate much better than a synthetic environment full of like EMF radiation like interfering with uh, our meditation.
What's the What is like EMF stand for?
Like electromagnetic frequencies,
Oh yeah,
just
yeah.
like all the like Wi-Fi and everything, like talking to the other things. It like very loosely interferes with um, the sort of things that we seek within ourselves to learn more about what we're supposed to do with ourselves on the outside.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Hey, so y'all try to meditate outside as much as you can. You know, be better about that. So I had a couple questions for you, Adam. My first one's pretty simple. It's just like I just want to know like what college is to you. I feel like college has a different value to every person that is in a college course.
Oh,
And
definitely.
not even necessarily like it's not that I want to know like what like the biggest value is, but I mean obviously you can answer it that. I feel like that's a pretty common question though. I just wanted to know like what do you what place does college have in your life? Like even when you graduate college, what will you think of college as in your past?
College as an institution, its place is to be sort of like an adult factory where it takes those who that are like pumped out by like the high school adult factories, and here we are in college. But it's tricky because it needs to be an individual experience for everyone, since in order to successfully live life you need to find purpose. And just going over everything that you need to know in order to function in a job that gets you money, that gets you the food you need to survive, it's not enough. You need to find purpose, and that's the thing that varies between colleges, I guess, is sort of the culture surrounding helping students find purpose, lifelong purpose.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's huge, honestly. I've never thought about that before. Like, a college is like a kind of place to like cultivate that purpose that you're gonna have for the rest of your life. Because I mean, even high school does that. Like kids that don't really go through high school, it seems like they have a harder time like figuring out like long term, like what am I gonna do with my life. A lot, it's not a defining factor, but I I can see that that's a huge part of like what the experience is. Even just like figuring out like what kind of like people you like gravitate towards, like what kind of things you like to do, because people transfer through different degrees, like they try one degree, they're not about it, they try another degree, oh, I really like this degree, and all of that plays a part in like what your purpose is going to be, like what you really like feel like you need to do.
And that's sort of where meditation should have a place on like college campuses, where there should be like um, meditative classes that are part of like UCore, so students can like regulate themselves better to discover within themselves what they actually want to do, instead of bouncing around like a trial and error sort of thing that costs an insane amount of money.
Yeah, it does, bro. It's bad. You think like meditation, like what role does meditation play? How does it help out?
Like if you it, a ship that has many holes in it won't make it very far across the sea, but a ship that has like a strong hull and someone like on it who knows how to steer the rudder, it, in in that situation a ship would be more likely to cross the sea. So by giving students like required meditation classes like earlier in their education, where they are taught how to steer their lives pretty much, it it helps them discover what they like really want to do.
Yeah, so you're saying like I see what you're saying. Like these people, college is a very stressful place, and it can cause a lot of like people can lose a lot of confidence in college and just get like overworked and overwhelmed by all the schoolwork, but not even just the schoolwork, just like trying to, obviously paying for college. Like a lot of people get jobs, and you have a job, you have to like make sure you're doing all your schoolwork and you're figuring out who you are. And all of that can be, even if it's not damaging, it's a lot. And if college is a place where you're cultivating your purpose, you want to be in the best headspace that you could be in. Like you want to be at your like top game.
Exactly.
And so you're saying like meditation like helps. Obviously meditation helps like keep you in a better headspace. And
Yeah.
even like going out and like exercising, like I could see all that.
If exercise is also like a really important aspect of like keeping your body healthy. It's like mind, body, soul. You gotta take care of all of them in order to function to your highest. So by exercising, exercise, if exercise was a like pharmaceutical, it would be a miracle cure to like almost anything, where it kicks your body into like a different sort of metabolic state, where it's making sure everything in your body has a purpose, where it's doing what it needs to, and there isn't just stuff sitting around doing nothing, not working for you. And exercise is very important.
If you don't use it, you lose it. All right. So I was wondering, like, what what do you think has not been explored enough?
Hmm. Well,
I feel like I wish we did more stuff with Antarctica. I mean, like obviously a lot of people think we haven't done enough with the ocean, and I agree with that. But I feel like we haven't even like finished the continents yet. Am I right? Like, what are we doing here?
yeah, something
If we're gonna terraform Mars, we need to be able to terraform the ice at least.
something really interesting I read about recently was um, there there are ongoing studies where people are in being fed like um, DMT IVs where and then they draw maps
Yeah,
and
I heard about
all,
that.
all the participants of those studies drew like connecting maps to like somewhere.
They're literally like mapping the mind, bro. Like
Yeah.
it's a place. Because like all these people that have the experience, they say like they go somewhere. They're like, and they go there like multiple times. Like they'll go there and like I know what this place looks like. Like I could describe it to you.
Hmm. Yeah, our DNA is an infinite labyrinth of places to explore
Do you
beyond.
think it's infinite? Do you really think like our DNA like has an infinite amount of things that like it could be?
In a sense, yes, where it's ever evolving and at the same time ever encompassing of the past, which is really cool. Um, like something that you could do while meditating is astral traveling, but you could astral travel like into your own DNA, sort of speak, where you can explore like what makes up you. There's terms for this, but I forget.
Is it just like you're focusing? Because meditation helps you focus. It takes away all the distractions. Like you're thinking about all these different things, and when you meditate, you slowly like figure out how to not think about all those things. You get them all off your mind, and then that allows you to focus on certain things. So people will like meditate just to like they'll meditate before events or something they need to do. I remember I had one friend that meditated before an exam, and he said it was the best exam he'd ever taken. He just like did like 15 minutes, just sat there, like cleared all of his head out, and then you're just able to completely like encompass yourself in whatever you're gonna do next because you have nothing else on your mind.
The best way to succeed in something is um, meditate and be excited to um, obtain like your objective as an inevitability that in a sense has already happened and you're excited about that. So
Yeah. But you were saying like for the DNA, like you can meditate to the point where you can kind of like you understand like your DNA better. You understand like your body better in a way. Is that what you're saying?
like not necessarily your body, yes, also that's like a part of it, but I mean also things like blood memory and like past life memory where something that I've been theorizing is like the intersection of like blood memory and past life trauma is a big part of what constitutes like various disorders of like the body and mind,
Yeah.
which is interesting. Like,
Does it travel through? Do you think it travels through DNA?
well, what like say you started um
Like if I have an experience right now, like we're in this room, and I were to die, whenever, at any point, that experience, well, if I had kids, that experience would be encoded in my DNA.
well, if you
And then they would,
if you spent your whole life like running as much as you can like every second of every day, like
oh,
to the
okay,
point
so
of exhaustion, like
it's like big adaptations. It's
you
like
can then if you had children, like after you became like super like fit like that, they would be predispositioned to, without needing to put in as much effort as you did, um, to obtain the same results, so to speak.
So
It changes your DNA.
Your DNA like kind of adapts as you adapt.
It adapts to your current lifestyle, and your current DNA is the culminated adaptations of all your ancestors' lifestyles.
So if you have kids and then you become like a super athlete, then the kids that you had after you were a super athlete would be more athletic.
Probably so. I would think so.
Even if like
Be an
you
interesting.
weren't really parenting them.
It'd be an interesting, like data analysis thing. Yeah.
It's complicated. I mean, like we know almost nothing. I remember, I remember it blew my mind when I was, I think, 19. I was scrolling like I always scroll through the news like it's crack, like everyone else does. Like it's there's some like the dopamine that you get just from like reading random news articles. It's not.
Yeah, that's the
Doesn't make
scary
any sense.
thing about like AI being so good at like
Yeah.
being able to target like what will get our attention in order to obtain more of like
Oh, it's gonna be insane.
our attention. Yeah.
It's gonna be insane. But what I was saying was like I read this article about like this new muscle that they found in the neck that they'd never like found before. Like they named it like that year. This was in 2019, I think. Yeah. It might have even been 2020, but 2019 like 2020, they found a brand new muscle in the neck. Never found it before. Never seen it before. So what? We've had I don't know when it began. I need some research here, but like you know that like we've been doing medical stuff. We've been autopsying people for hundreds of years, if not thousands of years, probably multiples of thousands of years. And we just now found a new muscle in the neck. Like a new thing. Just didn't know it was there. Never saw it before. Oh, but now we know. Took 2,000 years, but we found this. So like the amount of the sheer like lack of knowledge that we have about the body and like DNA, it must be astounding. It must be like so vast.
It is. It's incredible the volume of things that we do not know about ourselves. Something that's an interesting concept is your physical body is only like a small fraction of your being, pretty much, and the function of your pineal glands is I believe it has like quartz crystals on it to act as an interface to your soul, which is the greater portion of your being rather than your mind.
What is the function of the pineal gland?
It's to connect your brain to your soul.
Okay.
Through quartz crystals resonating
There's like
using
actual,
electricity.
Like, there's actual like crystals in there.
Yeah, and like ascended masters and monks, after they die and are cremated, a lot of the time they have like solid like infused quartz crystals inside their, or what used to be their pineal glands. And it's incredible how through meditation our bodies like physically change, so we are able to then meditate better as a sort of feedback loop. So that the more often you meditate, the better you can meditate.
What is the soul considered in regards to the pineal gland? Like how does like you're saying like we have a soul and there's one organ that kind of mitigates it.
Well, in Buddhist beliefs, for example, there's the reincarnation cycle of samsara, where all the souls that pass through like time in a sort of endless river. And every time someone it dies, they sort of just go back around and re-enter it at a place of their choosing. Like, it's interesting that once we're born, we sort of lose that, like, cosmic mind portion of, like, our being's thought process and return back to, like, being a baby where you're just kind of, your soul's like using your body as a vehicle, but that vehicle can't steer very well yet. If that makes sense. And as you, like, develop, you are able to steer better and better until you're finally able to, like, you use your cosmic minds, which is your soul, to think in sync with your brain, which is what all the monks do when they meditate.
What's the best argument you've seen against, like, reincarnation? Like, the most convincing thing you've seen? Like even if you think reincarnation is real, what's, like, the if you were going to argue against it, what would you say?
An interesting thing to consider is, does the reincarnation cycle that we're so familiar with, is it planet to planet? What happens if someone dies on a planet where they were the only person there?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of questions about it, dog. Like,
that's an interesting.
To me, like, it's a good theory. I think, like, there's a lot of value. There's a lot, like, it explains about how things work, and it's even just a good thing to, like, it makes better people. Like, it makes better people if they think, okay, well, we have to, like, become better people now so that we can, like, work our way up, like a game almost.
It really is, you reap what you sow.
Yeah.
In every aspect of life, where life is it's like a reflecting fractal of your own thoughts. So if you like spew hatred, for example, then that reflective fractal will sort of lead people to spew hatred back at you, and vice versa, where if you pursue peace rather than success and just try to, like, gain positive karma, then it comes back around to you through the people you meet and the good experiences you live.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Alright, what should more people, given that, what should more people learn about?
Everyone should find faith in themselves and, like, that. Everyone should find faith within themselves rather than the outside world. It's like an establishment of, like, a core of being where you are, you think, therefore you are. That's sort of.
You're saying, like, we shouldn't worry so much about the rest of the world to, like, kind of...
We should just focus on doing what we can whenever we're presented with the opportunity, rather than letting fear consume us through worry and, like, distracting us from what is already in front of us, which is what we're supposed to be doing.
We shouldn't worry so much about, like I get kind of, like, caught up in just, like, global affairs, global, like, whatever's, like, happening, like, on a huge scale. that I can barely even comprehend. Like, there's no way I actually know what's going on. But you get caught up in politics, you get caught up in, like, all, like, the, like, global warming and, like, climate change, and you get caught up in all kinds of just these massive societal movements or happenings, and you have no control over it. You have zero control.
Yeah.
And it's hard because it's like you feel connected because you're a part of it, so you feel obligated to like have opinions and to make moves based on like these giant societal like events. But at the end of the day, if you just focused on yourself and everyone else did, if everyone just like made their own life, like if everyone made their own life the way they wanted their life to go, which is extremely hard, and why many movements have been developed to figure out how to make sure that people can do that. But we can't forget that the goal is to have everyone be able to make their life the way that they want it to be. Their own life.
Exactly.
Not the way, like, one of these... The reason these movements happen is to make sure that everyone can do that. It's not because the movement is right. It's not because if we all do, like, what, like, this... Whatever this is... Whatever, like, this giant, like, movement is going to be. We all need to do X, we all need to do Y. The reason you're doing that is so that eventually you can do your own thing. And I think people forget that. They think like the only thing they need to be doing is like supporting this movement, making sure this movement like happens, gets bigger.
That's why fear is so powerful, and it's invoked in order to sort of harness people like that. But like recently, I read about this scientific study that so apparently the ideal point of worry in order to maximize like your potential as a human being is just slightly more than nothing. So like simply have concern for your fellow man rather than remaining in a like completely isolated from everything else. But just do what you can, and like what goes around comes around. And if everyone just kind of helps each other out, then it's all covered, right?
Yeah, man, community is everything.
Exactly.
It's strong. It's always been strong. Like the biggest communities usually prevail. And I hope that like happens more in the future, but I'm sure it will. We kind of people like are figuring that out, I think. I think that we had this second where we all had these like giant movements that got so big because of communication, because like even you go back to like the 50s, right? You have the United States versus the USSR. And these movements that come from the United States and the USSR, you have communism versus capitalism. And you might think like, oh, well, like they were just like the best options at the time, but that's not even necessarily the case. We had so much communication and these leaders that were just so ridiculously powerful at the time. That could not just because they had power, but just because like they had telephones, they had TVs, they had radio. You could spread these ideas over populations that were unprecedented and just get these massive movements. And I think people just get caught up in that because it's so big. It's never been seen before. We've never seen this many. Like, there's never been. I bet there are more communists than like Romans in the Roman Empire. I don't research that yourself, but I bet there are more communists than there were Romans in the Roman Empire. And if that is the case, then I think that is enough. Even if it was half, even if there were half the amount of communists as there were in the Roman Empire, that's enough of like a political, like it's so big that, like, how could you not be a part of it? Like, if you were a part of it, like, what is the end game of that? We've never seen that before. And I think we're just now starting to, like, figure out, okay, well, we have these, and there's been movements since then that have been even bigger. Like, any movement that happens in 2023 that's spread to every single iPhone across the world is just going to outnumber any society that existed before the year 1900. And I think we're starting to figure out, okay, these movements are, like, big, and obviously, like, they have a lot of power, but they're not the way to go. Like, it's not the end all be all. It's like you imagine a tree grows that's like the biggest tree that ever existed. It just dwarfs all the other trees. People would worship it for years. If it grew tomorrow, people would worship it for like the next 50 years. Probably longer than that. Probably for the next 1,000 years there'd be legends about this tree. But after the first 50 years, people would get used to it. And they'd go, okay, well, it's just another giant tree. It's just a tree. And they'd go on with their lives. They'd go on with what's important. I don't think these movements are any different. I think they're the next giant thing that happened to grow. And it kind of took everyone aback for a second. But now we're going, okay, it's a movement. It's nothing more. It's just a movement. You have your own life. You have your own goals, your own dreams. They have nothing to do with these movements. These movements are there. If you're going to say these movements have any value, they're there so that you can have your own dreams.
Well, movements are mediums of change, sort of, in a sense. And a lot of the time, they exist to better allow, like, the general public to pursue like what they want to pursue in their lives, to have the freedom to live and to be themselves. So they do have a place, but you're right, like once they like exist for long enough, they are solidified and like incorporated as part of like the culture of the region or wherever the movement happens to be. So yeah, it's just sort of like an endless cycle, I feel like, where just mediums of change, I guess.
Yeah, it's just it's a vehicle, kind of. I mean, they're entertaining. It's always cool to be part of a movement. It's always cool to like have a community of people. It's a bigger community, and the community that matters is the people that you're talking to. That's the community that has the most effect on like you personally, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the future that is in like sustainable, like self-sufficient communities where rather than people trying to isolate themselves from nature, they live in harmony with it once again. Recently, I rescued an axolotl, and I watched this documentary about their like native, the home, like where they used to live, that now they like dwindle. The Aztecs, they had like a farming practice where they would just like scoop mud out of the channels and throw it onto their plants as like instant fertilizer, and there were so many axolotls that they would eat them for food and like other medicinal benefits in great quantities. But now there's like almost none left, which is really sad because of, well, misled farming practices, or a loss of traditional wisdom, I guess.
Yeah, I didn't know that. So they were brought like to extinction just by human interaction?
Yeah, all the places where they used to live, they're just pumped so full of like
Oh yeah.
like toxic things, like all the pesticides are filling the channels. It's sad. Yeah, the only thing that can survive in there is like carp, and even the carp are all sort of like mutated a lot of the time. It, you know, that it's our role as human beings to save all of this. Like,
Well, not even our role necessarily, but we have so much to gain
yeah,
from
we can
saving
live
animals.
healthier and better lives if we simply help the things around us. If we help, when we help nature, nature helps us. That's the sort of mindset that farming should try to focus more on.
And I think it is. I think people like recognize that like I forget what they call it, but the it's like not conservation farming, but it's just farming that like they make sure that it's gonna last. Like normal farming, you bring in normal farming like imports in order to get like the food that they're gonna produce, right? Like they have to import a bunch of chemicals. They have to import like all the equipment to do everything. Like you take a field, right? Like it takes a lot to plant a field of wheat and like farm it and get the wheat out. I mean, I'm sure it does. And even for animals, even for like cows, like you have to import so much. You have to get these facilities to run. Like you have to import all the food and import like all like the equipment, and
It's like that by design.
it's not good. Like
It's like
that's
that by design so people can make money off of it
yeah.
at the expense of everyone else who's not making money off of it.
But it's crazy that that's the way when like you can probably and I don't like people there's farms now I know that like are trying to do it where you can all the food comes from the farm. So like they feed the cows with plants that they grow on the farm, and it like they take extra from that food and they feed it to the cows, but then they can give the rest of the way to sell, or even they can grow plants in a certain way, feed those to the cows, and then the cows or like have another animal like eat through that field. I'm butchering this explanation right now, but I feel like you understand what I mean.
Yeah,
Like you can do it in a way that just goes on forever. Like all like nature doesn't export, nature doesn't import in order to function.
it's all
It functions
already
on its own
there.
cycles.
It just cycles.
And it's crazy to think that like we can't really do that with our own food, and it would be so much better, so much more efficient. But I think we just didn't know how bad chemicals were. People just didn't know. Like, and I think in the early 1900s, even if the like larger companies did know, even if like the CEOs and like the people that like ran these companies, even if they knew how bad it was, even if they were doing experiments at the time and like knew like, okay, well, like we know it's bad, but we're just gonna do it anyways because it makes so much money.
Yeah,
The amount of people that knew was much smaller than the amount of people that know now.
it all sort of started like around World War II. There was a big like rush in the scientific communities to develop a technology to extract nitrogen out of the atmosphere to put it into fertilizer. Um, Fertilizer slash bombs, I guess. But once that technology became available, like being able to directly pull nitrogen out of the atmosphere into fertilizer, that all the like traditional farming practices that had existed for thousands of years were wiped clean for like monoculture farming, where you just spray all the plants with the nitrogen fertilizer and hope for the best. And what happens is those plants, they just keep using the nutrients from the soil, pulling it out until the soil just turns into dust. That's what happened with like the Oklahoma Dust Bowl in the U.S.
Well, that was from over farming too. I mean,
Yeah.
they just
But you need to
I
keep the
think that was
nutrients in
related
the
to
soil. It
nitrogen,
needs
right?
to
Because like they
be.
couldn't farm like that until they had the nitrogen
Yeah, it became.
fertilizer.
It was a new technology that was
You're right.
not used in the wisest sense, but yeah, there's definitely better ways we know now, where um, we can still feed everyone in the world several times over without having to basically give everyone like nutrient deficiencies from not feeding the plants that were growing the micronutrients that they would otherwise have. That's like why organic food is pretty good. It has
Yeah,
more of those.
I always think about like how like long it takes for some of the food that I eat to like get to me. Like I was eating a loaf of bread the other day and looking at the ingredients and just like, bro, like there's so many things and they must be like sitting in storage facilities like for who knows how long, bro.
Yeah.
Like all that, even just like the flour itself, without like all the other chemicals I can't even name. Like, just must be sitting in these facilities for like who knows how long, and then they like put it in a factory and put it together, and then the bread like sits in a truck and like goes to the store, sits in the store for however long, and then I go and pick it up and I eat it. But all that time that it's just kind of like sitting there, just like going stale, or I know they like have ways to preserve it, but it always involves chemicals. Can't be good.
Micronutrients
And there must be value to just like having it fresh. Like there
yeah.
has to be a difference in like eating something that like grew, or finished growing the week before you ate it. Even.
That's the nice thing about like artisan made goods is it gets more of like the micronutrients from just the environment that our bodies need, that we just need like a tiny bit of like a long list of random things that naturally occur in the wilds that sometimes people don't get for decades because they just eat like the first thing they see at the supermarket that gives them the most dopamine, so they just keep eating it and eating it again, and it's like an engineered addiction almost. So you gotta feed your body right in order to feel right.
Do you have like good vitamin recommendations? I was talking to someone the other day, and he said, I asked him like what he said his mom died at like 98 or something, super healthy, or not? She was still alive, but she was like pretty healthy, and he was saying how like for his generation like that's pretty, because he was an older dude, and he was saying like yeah like I think she must have been like 90 or something, and like still can talk and like is still doing fine. And I asked him why he thought that she did so well, and he said that she was like super into vitamins, like obsessed with vitamins, and she had a couple siblings, and she was the only one that like.
And nutrition is very important to like staying like your best self as long as you can through your life.
What vitamins would you recommend? Honestly, I know vitamin D3 is like super important,
Well,
especially in Washington.
yeah,
But
it
I don't know.
depends. Something that's an interesting technique is try meditating and feeling which of your organs might be like under strain, or like try to just identify the like exactly where in your body it might not be doing the best, and
Yeah, that's what I was saying
find like foods that naturally have the things that those organs want the most, and
You
just
can.
kind of fix it. Just keep fixing it and pay attention to what needs fixing. It's like you own a tractor, and you can either just kind of keep driving it until it breaks down, or you could occasionally look under the hood and service it so
Yeah.
it runs longer.
Yeah.
It's the same sort of thing with our bodies. We just we don't need to like open ourselves up. We can just meditate and feel.
like you work out and you notice like how like tense like your arm muscles get, and you get anxious and you notice like, oh, like my shoulder muscles are like pretty tense, but you're like your whole body must like have like random like tensions all over the place from like getting stressed out or like
Yeah, but
not using like some like muscle enough, it starts like getting tense, but you don't know. I never notice it. I only notice like the biggest ones. And like you're saying, you can use meditation to like it makes sense. You like calm down, get rid of all the extraneous thoughts in your head, and you can go, oh, yo, like my it's something or something. My I don't even know, like some muscle that I wasn't aware of before, like is super tense. And it like even if you can't relax it, just being aware of it, just being like, okay, I know this is tense, like I need to take it easier.
it's the same sort of process when you're dealing with like triggers that are like caused perhaps by your like past life trauma, where like say you keep experiencing something in your life that gives you a massive spike of anxiety or depression or something like that, and instead of just succumbing to like the usual thing that like focusing on the pain pretty much as if like with the muscle comparison, just slow your mind down and take a minute to just fully analyze like the flow path of like emotionally and like what happens inside, you know. That's like one of the best steps towards healing trauma.
Yeah, man. I think that's great advice. Got anything else you want to say before we end this? Any advice to all the students out there? Any insights from
Just
this week? I don't know what's going on.
just be your best self and be excited to be an even better self, and you will continue to keep improving until you shine brighter than the sun.
I think that's great advice. Very powerful. Adam, it was a pleasure, man.
Same here.
Goodbye.